Somewhere in a rented garage outside Seattle, a man is building a desk out of a wooden door and two 4x4s. Not because he can't afford a real desk. He can. He just did the math. And a door costs less than a desk. And every dollar he doesn't spend on furniture is a dollar he can spend on growth. That obsession. Squeeze the cost out of everything, then pour every last cent back into getting bigger, is about to turn a $245,000 loan from his parents into one of the largest fortunes in human history. His name was Jeff Bezos. His empire would eventually be worth close to $3 trillion. And unlike Bill Gates, who built his empire by owning the gateway, Bezos had a different obsession entirely. He didn't want to own one thing people needed. He wanted to own the place where people bought everything. Today, we tell you how a Wall Street quant walked away from a six-figure bonus, built the world's largest bookstore out of a garage, lost money on purpose for 7 straight years, and along the way allegedly took down a rival company by slashing prices until it bled $200 million a month. New York City, early 1994. Jeff Bezos is 30 years old, and by almost any measure, he has already won. He's a senior vice president at D.E. Shaw & Company, an elite Wall Street quantitative hedge fund. He is smart, well-paid, and, on paper, set for life. Then he finds a number that will not leave him alone. Web usage in the spring of 1994 is growing at roughly 2,300% a year. Not 23%, 2,300%. Bezos will later say, flatly, things just don't grow that fast. Most people who saw that statistic did nothing with it. Bezos does something almost nobody in his position would do. He builds what he calls a regret minimization framework. He imagines himself at 80 years old, looking back on his life, and asks a simple question. Will I regret not trying this? The answer is obvious. Within days, he resigns from one of the best jobs on Wall Street. He and his wife, Mackenzie, drive across the country from New York to Seattle. Bezos writes the company's first business plan in the passenger seat during the drive. Before deciding what to sell, he methodically studies 20 different product categories: electronics, software, CDs, clothing, and picks the one with the strongest numbers behind it: books. The logic is simple and brutal. In 1994, there are more than 3 million books in print worldwide. Even the largest physical bookstore on Earth can only stock around 175,000 titles. A website, on the other hand, has no shelves. It can theoretically carry every book ever printed, in every warehouse in the country, without a single physical limit. Bezos isn't picking books because he loves reading. He's picking books because the math says books are the fastest way to build something that feels infinite to the customer, while costing almost nothing to list. On July 5, 1994, Bezos incorporates his company in Washington State. Its first name isn't Amazon, it's Cadabra, Inc., short for abracadabra. He drops it almost immediately, after a lawyer on the phone mishears the name as cadaver. He goes back to the dictionary and lands on Amazon, the largest river in the world by volume, matching his ambition to build the largest bookstore in the world. There's a colder, more calculated reason, too. He wants a name that starts with A, so it lands near the top of any alphabetical directory. The company sets up shop in the 900-square-foot garage of a rented house in Bellevue, Washington. Extension cords snake across the concrete floor. The desks are literally doors from Home Depot, screwed onto 4x4s. Because, as one of Amazon's first employees put it, the doors were simply cheaper than desks. The seed money comes almost entirely from one place: Bezos's parents. They invest roughly $245,000, a large slice of their entire life savings, into a business built around a technology they don't fully understand. His father's first question, reportedly, was, "What's the internet?" Amazon.com officially opens to the public on July 16, 1995. In its very first week, it sells $12,000 worth of books. Within 2 months, weekly sales climbed to $20,000. Shipped to all 50 states and more than 45 countries, out of a garage in the suburbs of Seattle. Bezos isn't trying to turn a profit. He is trying to grow as fast as physically possible, and he says so, openly, to anyone who will listen. Wall Street will spend years calling this reckless. Bezos calls it, "Get big fast." On May 15, 1997, Amazon goes public on the NASDAQ under the ticker AMZN, shares price at $18, raising $54 million and valuing the three-year-old company at roughly $438 million. By the end of the first day, the stock closes near $23.50. Here is where Bezos does something that would get most CEOs fired. In his very first letter to shareholders, he tells investors, in writing, that Amazon may not turn a profit for 4 to 5 years, and that every available dollar will be reinvested into growth, market share, and infrastructure instead of the bottom line. Wall Street is not amused. Year after year, analysts complain that Amazon is bleeding money it doesn't need to bleed. And year after year, Bezos does it anyway. He plows revenue into warehouses, into logistics, into scale. The unglamorous, capital-hungry plumbing of e-commerce that most competitors don't want to pay for. The dot-com bubble bursts in 2000, wiping out an entire generation of internet companies almost overnight. Amazon survives, barely, through brutal cost-cutting. And then, in the fourth quarter of 2001, something almost trivial happens that changes everything. Amazon posts its first-ever profit, 1 cent per share, on more than $1 billion in revenue. 1 single cent. But that cent proves, to every skeptic who called Bezos reckless, that the model actually works. You can lose money for years, as long as you're buying something with it. And what Bezos was buying, the entire time, was dominance. By 1998, Amazon starts selling CDs, then electronics, toys, tools, and eventually, as the company itself puts it, practically anything a customer could ever want to buy. This is the strategy that earns Amazon its nickname, the Everything Store. Then, in 2005, Bezos launches the single most important loyalty tool in the history of e-commerce. Amazon Prime, priced at $79 a year, offering unlimited 2-day shipping. It sounds almost too simple. But Prime does something brilliant to the customer's brain. Once you've paid the annual fee, every additional purchase feels free. There's no longer a reason to check a competitor's price when shipping already feels covered. By 2023, Prime has grown to more than 200 million members worldwide. Each one now conditioned to start every purchase of practically anything on Amazon first. Then comes the accident that becomes a trillion-dollar business. While building the internal computing infrastructure Amazon needs to run its own website, Amazon's engineers realize something. Other companies would pay serious money to rent that same infrastructure. In 2006, Amazon Web Services launches. Cloud computing sold to outside businesses. Today, AWS alone generates tens of billions of dollars a quarter and produces the majority of Amazon's total operating profit, a side project born from internal plumbing that now quietly bankrolls the entire empire. This is where the story turns considerably less charming. In 2005, a small startup called Diapers.com, run by a company named Quidsi, starts making waves with fast, reliable delivery of an unglamorous but essential product. Diapers. It's a tiny company, but it has something Amazon wants badly. A direct line to a customer segment with enormous lifetime spending power. New parents. According to later reporting, Amazon's merger team doesn't just admire Quidsi from a distance. With Bezos's direct involvement, Amazon reportedly launches a deliberate campaign to destroy the company's business, cutting the price of diapers on Amazon by roughly 30%, a discount so aggressive it is estimated to have cost Amazon around $200 million a month. On the very same day those cuts go into effect, Amazon's team allegedly contacts a Quidsi board member to suggest that the company sell itself to Amazon. Cornered, Quidsi eventually agrees. In November 2010, Amazon acquires Quidsi for $545 million. Bezos' own public statement on the deal is almost cheerfully blunt. "I'm not sure which is more unpleasant, changing diapers, paying too much for them, or running out of them." Less than 7 years later, in 2017, Amazon quietly shuts the whole thing down, citing a lack of profitability. Diapers.com, the company Amazon reportedly spent hundreds of millions of dollars to defeat, simply disappears. This pattern, undercut, absorb, or destroy, move on, becomes one of the defining accusations against Amazon. In September 2023, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, joined by 17 state attorneys general, files one of the largest antitrust lawsuits in modern history against the company. FTC Chair Lina Khan, who first rose to prominence writing a law school paper literally titled Amazon's Antitrust Paradox, alleges that Amazon uses coercive, interlocking tactics to illegally maintain monopoly power, allowing it, in her words, to impose something close to an effective 50% tax on third-party sellers who need Amazon's marketplace to reach customers at all. Amazon denies the characterization entirely. The case, as of this recording, is still working its way through the courts. But the underlying question is exactly the one Standard Oil faced more than a century earlier, and the one Microsoft faced in 2000. Jeff Bezos steps down as Amazon's CEO in 2021, handing the reins to Andy Jassy, the executive who built AWS from an internal side project into Amazon's profit engine. Bezos remains executive chairman and the largest individual shareholder in the company he built out of a garage. The numbers today are almost absurd. Amazon employs more than 1.5 million people worldwide, making it one of the largest private employers on the planet. The company's market capitalization sits close to $3 trillion. Bezos's personal fortune, tied overwhelmingly to his remaining Amazon shares, is estimated in the neighborhood of $200 to $250 billion. Subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really helps support the channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications